Welcome to day 41 of 60 Days of Inspiration with Kathleen Gonzalez. And we are studying Living the Sacred Yes, Affirmations for Action by the Reverend Deborah L. Johnson. And today's reading, thank you for being in my life. Everyone and everything that comes into my life bears a gift for me and I for them. Although not always quickly discovered, the gift reveals itself to me as I open up to its possibility. I do not allow the inner sanctum of my heart and mind to be disturbed by the energy of resistance or resentment. I am at perfect peace with myself and my surroundings. I give thanks to the people, places, and things that have created the context for my divine insights. My journey is a fascinating combination of people and events. I bless them all for being wonderful catalysts and mirrors of consciousness. To everything and everyone I say, thank you for being in my life. What an amazing attitude. Everyone and everything that comes into my life bears a gift for me and I for them. Okay. What about these masks? What's the gift in the mask? That's what I want to know. Although not always quickly discerned, the gift reveals itself to me as I open up to its possibility. So I have to open up to that. There's a possibility that the mask thing, there's a gift in that, which I have not yet discerned. And I have to get off my ego trip around that and get into a spiritual stance in order to see that. I don't see it yet because I haven't looked at it from a spiritual perspective. I've just looked at it from my ego perspective, which is not having fun with it. Although I do have some pretty scarves that I use as opposed to a mask. So there's a little bit of fun in it, but I'm definitely haven't reached the spiritual level there. And so that's a good, this is a good reminder to jump back, get out of the ego, and see what I can discover about that whole situation and what the gift is of it and what the lesson and evolvement is around that. And when I find out, I'll let you know. Okay, although not always quickly discerned, the gift reveals itself to me as I open up to its possibility. I do not allow the inner sanctum of my heart and mind to be disturbed by the energy of resistance or resentment. I'm not there yet. Sometimes I'm there, but I'm not 100% there yet. So this is just kicking my butt today. I am at perfect peace with myself and my surroundings. And when we are at perfect peace with ourselves and our surroundings, then we're unflappable. We're just fine. We're good. And whatever's going on is useful and kind of exciting and there for a reason, because there's no accidents, right? There are no accidents. So if we're in this and we're experiencing this, then there's something about it that's important for us to work with. So there's something important about the mask thing for me to work with, and I am not at total peace with it. And so that's the direction is, okay, get to be at peace and not be disturbed by the energy of resistance or resentment. So whenever I sense those things, I need to take a breath and do some tool, something that brings me back to my spiritual awareness of who I am, my remembrance of who I am, what I'm here for, what I'm doing, what the reality of the situation is. Because the reality of the situation isn't me having an argument with the mask. Right? It's not the reality of the situation. That's a distraction. And that's resentment and resistance. And it's a waste of energy and time. And it also is a waste of, it's like I'm over here and there's something really interesting going on over here, something life affirming, something growth affirming, and I'm like distracted. I give thanks to the people, places, and things that have created the context for my divine insight. So it's all a context. Everything that's here is a context for divine insight. All the recent awareness around the depth of racism and the tragedy of racism and the horror of racism that is now surfacing, and we're having to expand, we're having to educate ourselves, we're having to expand our comfort zone so that we can acknowledge the reality of this and move beyond it to the solution. And a solution that's not born out of resistance and resentment, but a solution that's born, includes divine insight. And so giving thanks, being in gratitude lifts us is one of the things. So there's the tool, being in gratitude, giving thanks to the people, places, and things that have created the context for my divine insights. So being in gratitude is what lifts us out of distraction, resentment, and resistance. So that then from gratitude we can look at things and we can get those divine insights. My journey is a fascinating combination of people and events. And there in the air, even with all of this virus stuff, even with all of this upheaval, even with the difficulty of accepting a responsibility for the oppression of our family here on earth, isn't there a sense of historical precedent being set, that there's a sense of history here, that there's really something pretty exciting going on, and that there's a real opportunity to move into a world that follows our vision of what could be, right? There's like a space for change to happen. And it's like, I just feel like we're kind of like, I used to raise cattle, and we had these calves, and they'd get all excited, right? And then they'd rush the gate, and you have the gate open, and, when they'd all get tangled up because they're all rushing, to get through the gate all at the same time. And I kind of feel like that right now. It's sort of like everybody senses there's an opening in the gate, and there's a rush for the gate, and we're getting a little tangled up in it. But I think eventually we're all going to just be fine. We're all going to make it through. We're all going to hit that fresh pasture. The grass is greener on the other side. We're going to hit that green grass, that fresh pasture, and things are going to be different. And that's exciting. My journey is a fascinating combination of people and events. I bless them all for being wonderful catalysts and mirrors of consciousness. And it's kind of like, You know how they say, like, the teacher, when you're ready, the teacher will appear. And I kind of feel like that happens in terms of events. Like when we're ready, the events happen. When we're ready, things happen that are there to move us specifically in a direction that we need to go. And if we say yes, the sacred yes, then we find ourselves moving and having even more interesting and exciting adventures, meeting more interesting and exciting people, and having more interesting and exciting insights. So I bless them all for being wonderful catalysts and mirrors of consciousness, because you don't recognize. It's like, I don't know how many times, for example, there's this book called The Four Agreements. I love, love, love this book. This book, I think, is the answer to codependence in the world. If everybody read this book, there would be no more codependence. And I studied this book. I didn't just read it. I studied it. And this was back, I don't even remember, in the like 2004 or something like that, right around there. And I was in a study group, and we would meet twice a week, and we would pick an agreement. And there were like 6 of us, and we would just go into an in-depth discussion about the agreements. And we did this for months and months. And we went through that book, and that was like in 2004. And so now in 2020, or actually it was 2019, I read the book again. And it's like, it was like a completely different book. It was like it hit me so hard. It was like getting hit by a car reading that book, as if I'd never read it before. And because I'm in such a completely different place, 16, 15 years later, from the first time I read the book, it just like, wow, it was so powerful to read that book again. But it was like, I didn't, I saw things in that book that just were over my head the first time. It must have, because it was as if I had never read the book before. I was amazed. So to everything and everyone I say, thank you for being in my life. So all these amazing people in our life for a really great reason. We ask for them. We're ready for them. We get to interact with them. We get to be at the level that they're working at, that they're being at. So, as we raise our level, for example, that book, The Four Agreements, as I raise my level, I'm able to be with the book at a completely different level. And that book invites many levels. And this book that we're studying invites many levels. And this is my, I think, third time through this book. Third or fourth time through this book, and it still invites me to interact at a much higher, at a higher level than I've ever interacted with it before. And that's because I'm ready. And that could be because of where the world is right now requires that we do more. We dig deeper, we do more, and we find that mirror of consciousness in each other, and that mirror of consciousness, our consciousness, has to expand right now. It's being required to expand right now, and that's so exciting. It's like we're being required to come up with solutions to problems we never had before, which is really a great way of expanding our capabilities and our capacity to create, right? Create solutions, create ways of being that we've never had to do before. And so we're in a huge learning curve. And it's really important that we support each other in that, and kind of like, hey, this is kind of fun. It's like, it's kind of like a hot motorcycle. We're like on this like motorcycle, and it's like the pedals to the metal, and somebody else is pushing it, and we're just like trying to, and but while we're doing that, let's have some fun with it. It's like, okay, here we go. we're moving fast. I got my helmet on, I got my gloves on, I got my Kevlar on. I'm like ready to, my leathers. I'm like, let's take it. And, so I don't have any brakes. Okay. Let's just, keep it rolling and see what happens. So, anyway, thank you for being in my life. And who can you thank? Who can you turn around and thank for being in your life and helping you make it through this extraordinary time in an extraordinary way? Good night. See you tomorrow.